Daniel Hargrove, a smug bank teller, humiliated Amira Bennett by denying her access to her own funds. Just hours later, she returned, this time as his new boss, ready to expose his prejudice and confront the systemic racism within their bank. What unfolded next was a lesson no one saw coming. But let's go back to where it all began. The buzzing atmosphere of Crestwood Savings Bank reflected the rhythm of the working world. Customers moved through the lobby, their steps echoing off the marble tiles. Conversations blended into a low murmur, occasionally interrupted by the sound of clicking keyboards or the hum of printers. Nearby, a faint aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted from the break room, providing a momentary comfort to the employees who passed by. Daniel Hargrove sat at the central teller station, embodying arrogance in its purest form. His attire, a perfectly pressed shirt, sleek tie, and silver cufflinks, was chosen to exude authority. But his sharp features, pale blue eyes, and slick-back blonde hair only masked his condescending attitude. As his gaze swept across the crowded lobby, he often lingered on certain customers, those he deemed lesser, with a thinly veiled contempt. Among the staff, Daniel was notorious for his biting remarks and dismissive tone, and he relished every opportunity to assert his dominance. At that moment, Amira Bennett entered the bank. She carried herself with an air of quiet confidence that immediately drew attention. Her tailored navy suit fit perfectly, and her natural curls framed her face, complementing her elegant demeanor. The rhythmic click of her polished leather heels on the tile announced her arrival as she approached the counter. She placed her designer handbag on the counter, sliding her account card forward with precision. "I'd like to access my account, please," she said, her voice calm yet firm. Daniel glanced at her briefly, his smirk spreading as he picked up the card. Without even checking the system, he flicked it back toward her dismissively. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said, his tone dripping with mock courtesy. "We've had some issues with accounts like yours. Suspicious activity. You'll need to come back another time." Amira's expression didn't waver, but her eyes narrowed slightly. "Excuse me, what sort of issues are you referring to?" Daniel leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice but not his arrogance. "Let's just say we have protocols for accounts flagged for certain reasons. You understand, don't you?" The insinuation was impossible to miss. A faint murmur rippled through the lobby as other customers noticed the exchange. Amira straightened her posture, her calm demeanor now showing traces of irritation. "I need access to my funds immediately," she said, her tone sharper. Daniel leaned back, crossing his arms with a smug grin. "Not possible. It's bank policy." The tension at the counter was palpable. A few nearby customers stopped what they were doing, their eyes darting between Amira and Daniel as the confrontation escalated. "Call your manager," Amira demanded, her voice clear and commanding. Daniel hesitated, the smugness momentarily flickering from his expression. After a brief pause, he pressed the button on his headset. "Assistant manager to counter 3, he announced with a bored tone, though the slight edge of annoyance was unmistakable. Moments later, a wiry man in his late 40s emerged from the office area, his tie slightly askew and his forehead glistening with sweat. "What seems to be the problem here?" he asked, his voice nervous as his eyes darted between Daniel and Amira. Amira didn't wait for pleasantries. "I need access to my account," she said firmly. "Your employee has refused to assist me and is withholding my funds without justification." Before the assistant manager could respond, Daniel interjected, "It's flagged, sir." "Likely fraud," he said, his tone nonchalant but condescending. The assistant manager shifted uncomfortably, clearly unsure of how to handle the situation. "Well, ma'am," he began cautiously, "if your account is flagged." "I am fully aware of your procedures," Amira cut in, her voice firm. "Either you resolve this issue now, or I will escalate it far beyond your authority." The assistant manager's face turned pale as he realized he might be dealing with someone far more powerful than he initially thought. Daniel, however, muttered under his breath, "Good luck with that," loud enough for Amira to hear. Her gaze snapped to him, her eyes icy. "You will regret those words," she said quietly, the conviction in her tone leaving no room for doubt. Later that day, the employees of Crestwood Savings Bank were called into an unscheduled meeting. As whispers filled the air, Daniel walked in with his usual smug confidence, assuming the meeting had nothing to do with him. He leaned back in his chair, a faint smirk playing on his lips. At the head of the table stood Amira Bennett, her presence commanding the room. Dressed in a crisp white blouse and sleek black blazer, she exuded authority. "Good afternoon," she began, her voice steady and powerful. "Allow me to introduce myself properly. I am Amira Bennett, your new regional director." A wave of shock rippled through the room. Employees exchanged glances, their eyes darting toward Daniel, whose smug expression had vanished. "I've spent the past week reviewing operations at this branch," Amira continued, "and I've identified several issues that require immediate attention. Let me make one thing clear. Discriminatory behavior and poor customer service will no longer be tolerated." Daniel shifted uncomfortably in his seat as Amira's words seemed to target him directly. Under Amira's leadership, the bank underwent a dramatic transformation. Employees attended mandatory training sessions on anti-discrimination policies and customer service excellence. Feedback surveys revealed patterns of biased behavior, many of which pointed back to Daniel. Eventually, Amira called Daniel into her office. "Mr. Hargrove," she said, her tone professional but firm, "I've reviewed your behavior during last week's incident. Do you have anything to say for yourself?" Daniel stammered, I didn't realize." "It shouldn't have mattered," Amira interrupted. "Your actions were unprofessional and rooted in prejudice. Consider this your formal warning. Step out of line again, and you'll be terminated." Daniel nodded, his face pale as Amira dismissed him. Outside the office, employees and customers who had witnessed the exchange quietly applauded Amira's leadership. She allowed herself a small smile. Justice, she thought, was not just about accountability, it was about creating lasting change. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Unfolded Tales Explained. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.